It's your favorite time of the day. It's your time to run through multiple choice questions with me, and let's have a good time. First off, which of the following statements correctly defines the term reasonable assurance? This is one we'll see many, many times throughout our lessons, throughout our wonderful exam here. And reasonable assurance, it's not absolute, right? We got to make sure. So that's one thing. Just memorize, have it down. Reasonable assurance is not absolute assurance. You're providing reasonable assurance. You're not saying definitive that, oh, yeah, everything's perfect, right? So we're going to eliminate anything that says absolute. I don't like that. You should immediately trigger red flag in your brain, ding, 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 cross that out. In general, for this exam, and specifically this exam, but other exams as well, you see anything that is just definitive, like it is always this way. Actually, I'd say on reg as well, those aren't necessarily wrong answers right away, but they should definitely cause you to critically think about them, because there's a lot of times, as we'll see, tax, you get to reg as a gray area, audits, there's a lot of gray areas. There's no such thing as absolute, definitive, always this time. Those are very concerning words to see in an answer for a multiple choice question. All right, so I just wanted to get that out of the way, eliminate that one. We will reference the lessons, see where we saw this through that. What about significant level of assurance? Okay, that could be an answer. Let's, take a look, see what we saw in the lesson there. A high but not absolute level of assurance. A substantial level of assurance. Now, you might be saying these are semantics, right? These are actually kind of sounding somewhat similar. This is quite definitional. We got to make sure we know this. And let's see what our answer is. Let's see that here we've got our snippet from the lesson. This is definition straight pulled from the AICPA. Reasonable assurance is not absolute, but still a high level of assurance. This is what you want as your answer, leaving us here with letter C. Sounds good? Sounds good to you? Sounds good to me. Let's move along and keep going. Next up, we see that Robert West, CPA, is a partner in the audit firm of West & West and has a great lead on a new client, Absolute Care. Good for you, Robert. Very nice to see. Absolute Care is a skilled nursing facility in the community. The West firm does not practice in this area, but wished to expand towards other opportunities. What can West do in this situation? A lot of times, questions may try to get you to say, oh, well, if you don't have experience or you don't know what to do, you shouldn't really be there. That's not the case. There is always something you can do. What can West do? Can West accept the engagement and rely on management for industry assistance? Well, you should never rely on management when you're doing an audit of their company. You need to be independent, and if you're relying upon management to help you out, you're not independent. You're breaching independence. I want to definitely eliminate that one there. Should you speak with the client and convince them that you can do the work? Okay, that's something. I would definitely make sure, no matter what situation, your client thinks that you can do the work. But you should also be able to do the work, right? So that's my thought on that answer. It's not really a good answer because of that, right? Yes, your client should think that you can do the work, but you should also be able to do the work. Should we accept this engagement as the firm is reputable in other industries? That's also not the best answer. We've got one more here. We've got one that says hire an outside consultant experienced in healthcare auditing. Now, yes, if we are reputable in other industries, that's going to be helpful for this situation. If we can convince the client we can do the work, that's going to be helpful in this situation. But really, the end all be all here is the fact that we should hire an outside consultant and have someone on board that can guide us through those items that we might not really know. When you're doing an audit, a lot will be the same. I jokingly say, if someone asks me, oh, do you like working in financial services better than manufacturing or healthcare? A lot of times in my experience, I say it doesn't really matter. It's kind of all the same, right? It's just the work you do as an accountant, the work you do as an auditor. So that could be very true. However, there are going to be certain areas where you need specialty expertise. And what are you going to do? Like I said, you are going to hire that outside consultant. That is our best answer here. For reference, here is what we have from our lesson to reference. The auditor does not have to have technical knowledge and or experience, but the auditor can obtain the knowledge or hire a specialist. Good there. Final answer, letter D. Moving on here, we've got another question. At a minimum, an understanding with a client should include what? So we're coming to an understanding with the client. We want to agree upon certain things. The understanding with the client should include which of these: the objectives and limitations of the engagement, as well as the responsibilities of management and of the auditor. Wow, I really like that answer. That sounds super good. That is something that we would likely see in the engagement letter. So I would go with that one, but let's keep reading. The assessed level of the risk material misstatement. This is actually something that you should not communicate with management. This is something you keep to yourself as the auditor because that's part of your responsibility, independence. You keep materiality to yourself. You keep your assessed risks to yourself. The specific audit procedures that the auditor plans to perform. So again, this is now you might be thinking, okay, in an agreed upon procedure, you need to come to an understanding with the client about the procedures you're going to perform. However, this is an audit. Specifically, how you go about your job, you got to keep that to yourself. You can't let management in on that. Like, obviously, they will eventually find out the procedures you're going to perform because they'll likely be a part of them. They're the ones being audited. However, you got to keep that to yourself. How you're going about your audit is your business and your business alone. So I am going to cross this one out. And lastly, here, the auditor's opinion regarding whether the financial statements are free. So you're not coming to an understanding with the client about that. You're giving your opinion regardless of whatever the client wants the opinion to be. Obviously, the client's going to want a clean opinion, but if the financial statements are materially misstated, sorry, client, you're not getting a clean opinion. Crossing that off, leaving us here with letter A. Again, that is what is going to be in the engagement letter, and it makes sense, right? We got to come to an agreement with the client, make sure we understand the limitations, what we can and cannot do, and who's responsible for what. This is what you'd have in any sort of engagement. If you're contracting with construction, manufacturing, if you're agreeing, okay, hey, Best Buy's going to sell me a TV, and I'm going to give them cash, right? You kind of want to come to an understanding with that. Very good there. Last question here. An auditor of a non-issuer exercising professional skepticism with respect to the risks of material misstatement due to fraud will most appropriately do what? So we're exercising, it's a non-issuer. Does that matter? It may not. But always take a note of when a question calls out in a question and think about, is that relevant for the question? So you're exercising professional skepticism, risk of material misstatement, so that's an inherent risk and control risk due to fraud, will most appropriately do what? What are we going to do? I don't know, but you are the knowledgeable candidate. You're going to help me out here. Are we going to assess the entity's document retention controls before using documents as audit evidence? Okay, I like that. That is something you should do, but we've got a lot of components to this question. This is due to fraud, and this is risks of material misstatement. So this is something that you should do regardless of whether it's an issue or non-issuer, fraud or error. This is something you should do, but let's take a look. We want something that's specifically related to fraud. Consider the reliability of information to be used as audit evidence. I like that because information may not be reliable due to fraud. Let's keep looking. Adopt an attitude of acceptance unless, okay, evidence indicates otherwise. Nope. We are not just going to have an attitude of accepting everything. That's just not what we're going to do. That is complete opposite of what we should do. So I feel very confident in eliminating that one. Lastly here, authenticate documents used as audit evidence. That's not what we do. There's a lot of reasons that's not what we're going to do. First off, an auditor is not an expert at document authentication. This is just not something we're going to do. This comes up very rarely as a possible answer, and whenever you see that, that's just, again, we're not doing that. That's not our area of expertise. What we do as an auditor is validate where these documents are coming from so that we can understand that they came from a reliable source. That's how our approach is. We're not supposed to know the difference between a forged bank statement and a real bank statement. But if we get it directly from the bank and there's no risk of it being tampered, then we can rely upon it. We see that difference there. All right, so we're left with these two, and we want to think about that. I'm thinking about this like, I'm taking the exam with you, and unfortunately I can't take it with you. But here's how I go about it, right? We eliminate the answers that are a little outlandish, a little out there. Also going to reference our lecture here. Looking right here, look, to show professional skepticism means all of these items. 6 traits of professional skepticism. Here are our traits. So we're being alert. We're considering reliability. I like that. I like that a lot. Looking good. But we are going to consider the reliability. I like that. And while this is something that we will do, this is not going to be related to this question because this would be something we do to assess control risk, assessing internal controls. However, this is specific to fraud. We want to specifically consider the reliability of information to be used as audit evidence. I like that answer. That is going to be our final answer here. And that's not just because I like the answer, I'm saying it because that is the right answer. Again, the real kicker between these two is this is going to be specifically more you're using professional skepticism. This is more you are assessing control risk. You need to be professionally skeptic to see, is this information reliable? Whereas this, you don't really need to be professionally skeptic. You're just doing procedures, kind of objective, like are document retention controls solid? However, also document retention controls are going to deal with, did they get rid of their documents because they don't retain them for too long? So that's just not really having to do with fraud, and it's not really an area you'd have to be professionally skeptic for. So final answer, strongest answer is going to be letter B. With that being said, it has been my pleasure to walk you through these questions. Have a great rest of your day. Power through, get your studying done, and you can do it. Hey there! Are you ready to not only pass your CPA exams, but truly understand and enjoy the material while studying? I know it seems impossible, right? Especially to enjoy the material? We'll do it together. Tap into the power of cpa.examprep.ai, where we've got personalized quizzes, multiple choice questions, memorization guides, flashcards, simulations, all tailored to your learning. Our adaptive study planning puts you on the fastest path to success and lifts you back up if you fall behind. Avoid wasting your precious time and money attempting an exam with a low chance of passing, because who wants that? We want to get you through this process as quick as possible. Our exam readiness prediction lets you walk in with confidence, knowing that you're prepared for success on exam day. Thankfully, there's no payment method needed to get started, so why don't you come join us? Visit cpa.examprep.ai and let's achieve your exam success together.